This last news story comes to us from Tom Ivan over at VGC, and they write, Sony is reportedly boosting PlayStation's R&D spending to drive its live service push. Sony reportedly plans to increase research and development spending at its gaming business by about 10% this financial year. According to Nikkei, Sony Interactive Entertainment's R&D spend during the year ending in March 2024 will total 300 billion yen, which is about $2.17 billion. That will represent around 40% of the group's total R&D spending for the period, surpassing investments in its electronics and semiconductor businesses. So it's spending a larger portion of Sony, not just PlayStation, Sony's budget on PlayStation games than it is on its electronics and semiconductors, which is wild.
But we can't get a PSP. Okay.
Right, yeah, they're over there putting more money in the PlayStation than they are their TVs and headphones. But boy, can't get a dang PSP.
Makes sense. Checks out.
The increased R&D spending at PlayStation is being used to help drive the company's push into live service games, which is what everyone has been asking for. That's my editorializing there. Sony reiterated in May that it's planning to have 12 live service games in the market by its fiscal year ending in March 2026, up from 3 during its last business year ended this March. Live service games will account for 55% of its PlayStation, the PS5 development budget during the current business year, rising to 60% in the fiscal year ending 2026. Sony expects the market for add-on content associated with live service games to reach $19.2 billion in 2026, compared to the $7.4 billion for digital full sales and $12 billion for subscriptions. So they're really anticipating and forecasting that live service is the way to go. For whatever reason in their head, that's the way they're going to make all their money. Which, if you make a successful... I'm done reading the article at this point, if you didn't notice. If everything is successful, if they can actually somehow catch lightning in a bottle here and make the next Fortnite, I think they're 100% correct. But that is the biggest issue. I do not see them...
You know what this is, don't you?
It's gonna be a struggle to make something like that again. And I know they're working alongside. I should continue here because it does say the traditional console-focused company acquired Destiny studio Bungie for $3.6 billion last year to enhance its live service capabilities. So Destiny, already a live service game, they right away that's brought into their portfolio, and they didn't have to pay. Well, they paid for the company, but it was already made. It's already a vastly huge player base there. But PlayStation studio boss Herman Hulse said in May that Bungie is helping to vet all of Sony's in-development live service games. So they're basically any developer in the PlayStation sphere that's making a live service game sends it to Bungie first to basically double check their work. Like, hey, can you proofread our work and make sure?
And they're making Marathon too.
And they're making Marathon at the same time. It sounds like really Bungie's just going to get burnt out is what could happen because not only are they doing their own work, but they're trying to check everyone else's work at the same time. I just don't see the hype in live service games anymore. Like, people have been, again, trying to catch a lightning in a bottle since Fortnite came out. Everyone from EA to Ubisoft to the PlayStation, Xbox studio, like everyone's been trying to make another Fortnite and failing for the most part. Like, I mean, not to say there hasn't been successful games, but nothing near the success of Fortnite. But everyone's striving for that. And so it just seems wild.
Warzone.
And so it seems, that's true. Activision with Warzone. But it just seems wild to me to think that they think there's a big enough market to where, they're going to keep trying to make more games. Like, it gets to a point where there's only so much money to go around, and Warzone and Fortnite are massive. Like, people only have so much money to spend, right? Like, do they really think they're going to make a game that's going to outdo Call of Duty or Fortnite in the next 3 years?
You know what this is, dude? They're looking for the path of least resistance to make the most money.
So they're turning into Konami.
Pretty much.
Making pachinko machines and mobile games.
And then they're going to realize, oh, you know what? This actually isn't panning out the way we wanted to. Maybe we're going to have to start making games again, which is what happened to Konami. Now look at them. They're making games again.
Making lots of games. They're bringing back all their old franchises, making new games. People,
right.
Head over heels.
Yeah, this is pretty much what this is they're trying to find, they're like, look, we spend $2 billion now and we maybe find a game that makes us $2 billion a year. So we make that investment back, which is, I don't know, a gamble. If to put it politely, I was going to say a waste of money. $2.1 billion can get them so many games, so many quality games.
Yeah.
That's like, if you were to give, I don't know, a super giant, you can make like 30 super giant games, quality games. Probably 30 to 40, I would say, with that amount of money. Probably way more than that, actually.
So
I feel like
God of War Ragnarok, the budget for that game was $200 million.
Okay.
So you could make 10. Is that right? Yeah, that would be 10.
10 God of Wars.
God of Wars. And Supergiant, probably about 200.
So check this out. With that $2 billion, you can have 4 blockbuster games, right? That's $1 billion, right?
Yeah.
And then you take the other billion.
Or five,
and yeah, like you said,
5 blockbuster games. Yeah.
Well, yeah, 200 million each.
Yeah.
And then take the other billion and give it to, AA and smaller. Yeah, like you said, you get hundreds of games to fill out the time in between the blockbusters. Yeah. That's where you make your money at.
Instead of relying on one game to make the billions of dollars, why not like put out a bunch of cheaper but extremely capable games that can also
it's a proven business model. If the game is good, Supergiant is sitting there right now. They make banger after banger after banger after banger, and they only charge at the most $20-$25 for them. Yeah. And people are fawning over that game. Did you see the way people popped off when we found out Hades 2 was coming out at the Game Awards? Come on, man.
I mean, Hades 1 was incredible, so of course everyone wants a sequel.
But that's what I'm saying is why not invest in that? Who there was somebody on Twitter that made that quote or they made that tweet. Was it smaller games with worse graphics, with less work on the staff or something like that.
Yeah.
Over these big budget games that take 5 years and they're like $300 million and you get working your workers half to death.
Yeah. And again, as we talked about with the first news story, like it's art. So people are allowed to make whatever they want. But as you've said 100 times on this show, Adrian, is like not every game has to be a $200 million 5+ year development cycle like bombastic AAA game either. Like
no,
there's some fantastic smaller games that are just probably just as profitable, if not more, honestly, because they cost less and could probably make just as much as some of those bigger games. So yeah, it's like I'm not saying they can't make AAA games, like make the huge bombastic things, but boy, those smaller games are killer. Love it.
I understand that they need to make the blockbusters, right? The blockbusters are what move the units. I get it. But if it's me, and I think the only company that is really doing something like that is ID at Xbox. I think ID at Xbox is like leagues ahead of all the other publishers as far as courting independent or smaller developers with their ID at Xbox program.
Yep.
They're the only ones that are taking this seriously. Like PlayStation started off with it until they got big and didn't need indies anymore, and then they threw them by the wayside. Nintendo is coming up close behind Xbox with the Nindies program. In the Indie World Directs, so those are appreciated. But yeah, $2.1 billion in, I think it's supposed to be across 12 titles or something like that, just to throw everything at the wall and see what sticks.
Live service games. This is just like, no, like that's again, like there's only so
many games you're throwing away.
There's only so much money to go around. So that's what keeps popping in my head is like most people they're either like they're into one live service game and that's what they spend all their free money on, So if PlayStation's planning on putting out 12 live service games, I just don't see how A, they're going to be able to compete with Activision, with Call of Duty and Fortnite, and B, compete with themselves when they're splitting people up against. Granted, who cares if they're split up amongst themselves because they still get the money. But again, like it's just they're
everyone that doesn't hit is a waste of that $2 billion though.
Yeah, exactly.
That is no longer a return on investment.
Like this is
so not only do they need something to hit, but they need it to hit so hard that it makes that whole $2 billion back.
Yeah,
which is crazy because the only things doing those numbers, like we keep saying, are Fortnite and Call of Duty. That's it.
Yeah. I don't know, man.
And GTA.
Maybe
GTA makes crazy money too.
Forget that's not even a lot. I mean, I guess it kind of GTA Online is
GTA Online is a live service,
but yeah, wild. I don't know. Time will tell what will happen here because
I don't know. There's so many other games that they can make with that. Hundreds of games that they can make with that.
Yeah, and as long as they continue to as long as Sony continues the slate that they've been doing, where we get good AAA games and good AA games and indie games coming to the system, great. I don't care. Do what you want. But my worry is that if they start pulling the budget away from those things to do this, which I assume that's what's going to happen, is they're going to lower the budget for AAA games, lower the budget for indies, lower the budget, and then so those other things will suffer. If they can figure out an ecosystem where they can all coexist, then great. Whatever, go ahead, do your stupid 12 live service games. I don't think it's wise, but do it. But I just really hope it doesn't cause the other great things they're doing to suffer. That's all. I don't want them to pull money from their first party studios or from their ability to help, because obviously they don't make indie games because then it wouldn't be an indie game, but they do, they'll show support and help produce it.
They used to do it back in the PS4 days. They were going crazy with it.
They would help produce and support the smaller games.
Yeah.
And so I just don't want this thing to negatively affect those things. So go ahead and do it. Whatever, Sony, you're gonna do Sony, but I hope their main products don't suffer. That's all. That's
and
my
if this
biggest
flops, worry. I never want to hear anything from Sony about live service ever again.
No.
Ever again.
Never, ever. Not allowed to. It's against the rules. Oh, man. Oh, I forgot about this. This should have been a news story this week. Gex Trilogy has been announced. They're bringing back Gex,
should have been a news story,
the best platformer of our time. Limited Run Games bringing back the Gex Trilogy. We'll talk about that next week. We'll save it.
You can talk about that next week. I have nothing to say.
You don't like Gex, dude? Gex was so good. Gex 2?
I'm not doing the bit.
Enter the Gecko? Oh, love it.
You talking about the game where he made about a bunch of jokes about 1990s Hollywood celebrities? You think that's going to hold up?
It was fantastic, and you know it.
Okay.
Fantastic.
You go ahead and give Limited Run that money.
When that game comes out on
in 2025, when you actually get your game from Limited Run,
I'm going to be streaming it live here. You look forward to it. You can all look forward to that. Thank you so much for watching that clip from our podcast. Remember, if you want to watch the whole episode, the full episode, link will be in the description below. You can click on that and check it out. We got listener questions. We got more news segments. We got what you playing. We got a lot of fun things. So yeah, more than just the news. There's a lot more to the show that you should go check out. So remember, click that link in the description. Check out that full episode.